Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joanne Blais. I am delighted to welcome you to the 2019 Poetry and Voice National Semifinals for the English stream. As you may know, we held this morning the semifinals for the French and bilingual students. And if you were here, I think you would agree with me that the recitations were amazing, very touching. So, yes, and no doubt the recitations we are about to hear will also be. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and that the land on which we are gathering is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Inyanawak, Anishinaabe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. So welcome to all of you here at the Winnipeg Art Gallery. It's the first time that Poetry and Voice is holding its national final, so we're really excited to be here. I also want to welcome all the schools that are watching us online via our live stream, so it's wonderful that you can join us. The 12 students that you are about to meet are competing in the English prize stream. They are the very best in the country. I can assure you they were chosen amongst at least 10,000 students. We held an online qualifiers and they were judges by poets. So I think it's time to meet them. I would like to welcome the 12 semi-finalists for the English streams, and they will introduce themselves. Flo, big applause.
Serena Fiel, Etobicoke School of the Arts, Toronto, Ontario.
Barry Genge, Montague Regional High School, Lewis, Prince Edward Island.
Katricia Hebert, St. Mary's Catholic School, Sexsmith, Alberta.
Mackenzie Hutchinson, Prince of Wales Secondary, Vancouver, BC.
Chandra Miller, Dr. Charles Best Secondary School, Coquitlam, BC.
Noelle Samir, Glenlawn Collegiate, Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Clara Sismondo, Kingston Collegiate and Vocational Institute, Kingston, Ontario.
Nina Thatch, Kildonan Collegiate, Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Sophia Wilcott, Harborview High School, St. John, New Brunswick.
Irene Zhang, Fraser Heights Secondary, Surrey, BC.
William Zhang, University of Toronto Schools, Toronto, Ontario.
Matthew Zhou, London Central Secondary School, London, Ontario.
Congratulations to all of you. You are so talented. You will recite classic and contemporary poems and try to win one of 3 coveted spots and move on to tomorrow night's national finals. So best of luck to all of you. The show will be held tomorrow at 7 p.m. I believe there are still some tickets available, so please come and join us. It'll be very exciting. So our competitors' recitations will be judged by a group of 3 remarkable poets. Let me introduce them to you. Cecily Nicholson, she's the winner of the 2018 Governor General's Literary Award for Poetry. She's also very much engaged in community-based art and poetics. Thank you for being here today. Jason Stefanik is a Winnipeg poet whose debut collection, Night Became Years, was shortlisted for the 2018 Governor General's Literary Award for Poetry. Katharina Vermaat is a Métis writer. She has won multiple awards, including the 2013 Governor General's Literary Award for Poetry for her book about her Winnipeg neighborhood, North End Love Song. So welcome all, and thank you for being the judges today. So now it's time for our semi-finalists to go backstage, get ready, and we look forward to hearing you. See you very soon. Just a little reminder to please turn off all your cell phones. There will be 3 rounds of recitation. Each finalist recites 1 poem in the first round. We'll have a second round. We will stop in the middle. After the break, we'll come back. We'll hear the rest of the second round poems and move on to the third round. After the intermission, we'll return and hear more poetry. Is everyone ready? All right, let's begin. Thank you, everyone.
Round 1. Chandra Miller, Dr. Charles Best Secondary School, Coquitlam, British Columbia.
The listeners, Walter Delamere. Is there anybody there? Said the traveler, knocking on the moonlit door, and his horse in the silence champed the grasses of the forest's ferny floor. And a bird flew up out of the turret above the traveler's head, and he smote upon the door again a second time. Is there anybody there? He said. But no one descended to the traveler. No head from the leaf-fringed sill leaned over and looked into his gray eyes, where he stood perplexed and still. But only a host of phantom listeners that dwelt in the lone house then stood listening in the quiet of the moonlight to that voice from the world of men, stood thronging the faint moonbeams on the dark stair that goes down to the empty hall, hearkening in an air stirred and shaken by the lonely traveler's call. And he felt in his heart their strangeness, their stillness answering his cry, while his horse moved, cropping the dark turf neath the starred and leafy sky, for he suddenly smote upon the door even louder and lifted his head. Tell them I came. And no one answered, that I kept my word, he said. Never the least stir made the listeners, though every word he spake fell echoing through the shadowiness of the still house from the one man left awake. Aye, they heard his foot upon the stirrup and the sound of iron on stone, and how the silence surged softly backward when the plunging hoofs were gone.
Sophia Wilcott, Harborview High School, St. John, New Brunswick.
One art, Elizabeth Bishop. The art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost that their loss is no disaster. Lose something every day, accept the fluster of lost door keys, the hour badly spent. The art of losing isn't hard to master. Then practice losing farther, losing faster, places, names, and where it was you meant to travel. None of these will bring disaster. I lost my mother's watch. And look, my last or next to last of 3 loved houses went. The art of losing isn't hard to master. I lost 2 cities, lovely ones, and vaster some realms I owned, 2 rivers, a continent. I miss them, but it wasn't a disaster. Even losing you, the joking voice, the gesture I love, I shan't have lied. It's evident the art of losing's not too hard to master, though it may look like, write it, like disaster.
William Zhang, University of Toronto Schools, Toronto, Ontario.
If our bodies could rust, we would be falling apart. Billy Ray Belcourt. The law mandates that a hate crime only be classified as such if there is ample evidence to show that one's actions were motivated by prejudice towards an individual's nationality, ethnicity, sexuality, gender, etc. Oh, I got one! Some, more than others, know that all objects can be put to violent use. If our bodies could rust, we would be falling apart. Oh, I got one! Barbara Kentner, 34, was hit in the stomach by a trailer hitch thrown at her from a moving car. After throwing the hitch, a blonde 18-year-old man yelled, "Oh, I got one!" Her sister saw and heard everything. No one should have to watch a world explode like that. No one should have to watch someone become unbodied like that. The CBC reported that the police did not investigate the assault as a hate crime because there were no comments which made any reference to race or ethnicity. Oh, I got one. It is basic syntax. One is the object, and she is at the mercy of the I. This is a semiotics of indigeneity that routes us into death worlds. In the mouths of the grim reapers of the world, grammar is excited by violence. Oh, I got one. What did he see when he made her into a ghost? What is a ghost but the form we take when we are pulled outside of our bodies? Oh, I got one! They were memories made, and they do not disappear with the disappeared. Kentner was sent home by doctors so that her loved ones could witness her parting. How can a living room become a church without grief leaving its indelible mark? Oh, I got one. How do we live at the edge of the world?
Serena Fiel, Etobicoke School of the Arts, Etobicoke, Ontario.
Gayatri, Suvankam Tamavangsa. I have a picture of us when we are 7, but we aren't in it. At the time it was taken, we thought we were. We posed with our wide grins and best friends forever certainty. I angled the camera to capture us in front of a Christmas tree. All the sparkling tinsel and dangling silver balls aren't there. There is only the ceiling and the tip of the pine needle. There isn't a star or an angel on top. I have kept this picture of us for years. The only one to remember and laugh at what happened to us then. It was taken before a time when You could see a picture on a screen, see how it turned out, and decide whether it was worth keeping. I think of you now and again. The plain peanut butter sandwiches we ate with apples. You said you were going to be a dentist when you grew up, and with a fork and a spoon, you determined it was possible I would live, and sent me home with a bag full of Twizzlers and hairbands.
Irene Zhang, Fraser Heights Secondary School, Surrey, British Columbia.
Full Metal OG Cree, Joshua Whitehead. This is the Transcensorium. There are Indo-Robo women fighting cowboys on the frontier and winning finally. The pre-modern is a foundation for the postmodern. Wintermute, Tessier Yashpool, Armitage. They've revived us via neuromancy, but I am the necromancer. When I tell my mother I need kin, she sends me 10. We've all been subjected to zombie imperialism, dying in the sprawl of Night City WPG. Your world feels ontological because it is the nexus of adaptation and appropriation. Old Abelard Lindsay, Abraham Lincoln, told me that I was too loyal to my gene line, that the point is that we live, I tell him there's no I in that we never was. There's no room for white superiority and indigeneity. We were surviving, we are surviving. I've nullified your terra myths. I am more than props and backdrops. I am terrae filius. You, Neo-Columbus. I am terra full of us. Do NDNs in space become settlers too? Question mark. Now is our time to show off our copper skin, shimmer freefall headdress, and robo-moccasins. This pink and white gridwork is my techno beadwork. Our app use value has increased. I am the punk in a mare and cyber DN. The post-human is innately NDN. When novelty is horrific, I tell you this is the extra terrarium. We're not mothers, we're police. The pre-human becomes the precursor to resurrect the post-human and the transhuman, so fuck you. We'll survive this too. Like the cat, I have 9 times to die. Like the woman, I ask, how can you live so large and leave so little for the rest of us? Question mark. I've outlived colonial virology, slayed zombie imperialism. Us NDNs sure are some badass biopunks. We are surviving, thriving, dying to get it right.
Clara Sismondo, Kingston Collegiate and Vocational Institute, Kingston, Ontario.
Blackberrying, Sylvia Plath. Nobody in the lane, and nothing but blackberries. Blackberries on either side, though on the right mainly. A blackberry alley going down in hooks, and a sea somewhere at the end of it, heaving. Blackberries big as the ball of my thumb, and dumb as eyes, ebon in the hedges, fat with blue-red juices. These they squander on my fingers. I had not asked for such a blood sisterhood. They must love me. They accommodate themselves to my milk bottle, flattening their sides. Overhead go the choughs, in black, cacophonous flocks, bits of burnt paper wheeling in a blown sky. Theirs is the only voice. Protesting! Protesting! I do not think the sea will appear at all. The high, green meadows are glowing as if lit from within. I come to one bush of berries, so ripe it is a bush of flies, hanging their blue-green bellies and their wing panes in a Chinese screen. The honey feast of the berries has stunned them. They believe in heaven. One more hook, and the berries and bushes end. The only thing to come now is the sea. From between two hills, a sudden wind funnels at me, slapping its phantom laundry in my face. These hills are too green and sweet to have tasted salt. I follow the sheep path between them. A last hook brings me to the hill's northern face, and the face is orange rock that looks out on nothing. Nothing but a great space of white and pewter lights and a din like silversmiths beating and beating at an intractable metal.
Matthew Joe, London Central Secondary School, London, Ontario.
Poem for Duncan Campbell Scott by Armand Garnet Ruffo, Canadian poet who had a long and distinguished career in the Department of Indian Affairs, retiring in 1932. The Penguin Book of Canadian Verse. Who is this black coat and tie? Christian severity etched in the lines he draws from his mouth. Clearly a nobleman who believes in work and mission. See how he rises from the red velvet chair, rises out of the boat with the two Union Jacks fluttering like birds of prey, and makes his way towards our tents. This man looks as if he could walk on water, and for our benefit probably would, if he could. He says he comes from Ottawa Way, Odawa country, comes to talk treaty and annuity and destiny, to make the inevitable less painful, bearing gifts that must be had. Notice how he speaks aloud and forthright. This or nothing. Beware, without title to the land under the crown, you have no legal right to be here. Speaks as though what has been long decided wasn't. As though he wasn't merely carrying out his duty to God and King, but sincerely felt. Some whisper this man lives in a house with many rooms, has a cook and a maid, and even a gardener, to cut his grass and water his flowers. Some don't care. They don't like the look of him. They say he asks many questions, but doesn't wait to listen. Asks much about yesterday, little about today, and acts as if he knows tomorrow. Others don't like the way he's always busy writing stuff in the notebook he carries. Him. He calls it poetry, and says it will make us, who are doomed. Live forever.
Patricia Hebert, St. Mary's Catholic School, Sexsmith, Alberta.
War, Lee Maracle. In my body flows the blood of Gallic Bastille stormers and the soft, gentle ways of Salish Cree womanhood. Deep-throated bass tones dissipate, swallowed by the earth. Uproarious laughter sears, mutilates my voice. Child of the earth, tear of West Coast rain, dewdrop sparkling in the crisp, clear sun of my home. Warm woman of the Mediterranean sunscape, bleaching rough cotton. Sweatshop anniversary. Thunderous, rude earthquakes that split my spirit within. Tiny grapes of wine console me. Can I deny a heritage blackened by the toil of billions, conceived in rape, plunder, and butchery, in the veins that fight to root themselves in the wondrous breath of my homeland, races the blood of base humanity, European thief, liar, bloodsucker, I deny you not, I fear you not. Your reality and mine no longer rankles me. I am moved by my love for human life, by the firm conviction that all the world must stop the butchery, stop the slaughter. I am moved by my scars, by my own filth to rewrite history with my body, to shed the blood of those who betray themselves to life. World humanity I ascribe to my people, my history. I address my vision.
Mackenzie Hutchinson, Prince of Wales Secondary School, Vancouver, British Columbia.
Sometimes a Voice 1 by Don McKay. Sometimes a voice. Have you heard this? Wants not to be a voice any longer, wants something whispering between the words, some rumor of its former life. Sometimes, even in the midst of making sense or conversation, it will hearken back to breath, or even farther to the wind, and recognize itself as troubled air, a flight path still looking for its bird. I'm thinking of us up there, shingling the boathouse roof. That job is all off balance. Squat, hammer, body skewed against the incline, heft the bundle, daub the tar, squat. Talking as we have always talked about not living past the age of 30 with its labyrinthine perils. Getting hooked, steady job, kids, business suit, fuck that. The roof sloped upward like a takeoff ramp, waiting for Evel Knievel, pointing into open sky. Beyond it, 20 feet or so of concrete wharf before the blue-black water of the lake. Danny said that he could make it. Easy. We said, never. He said, case of beer, put up or shut up. We said, asshole. Frank said first he should go get our beer because he wasn't going to get it paralyzed or dead. Everybody got up, taking this excuse to stretch and smoke and pace the roof from eaves to peak, discussing gravity and Steve McQueen, who never used a stuntman, Danny's life expectancy, and whether that should be a case of export or O'Keefe's. We knew what this was. Ongoing argument to fray, the tedium of work akin to filter versus plain, stick shift versus automatic, condom versus pulling out in time. We flicked our butts toward the lake and got back to the job. And then, amid the squat, hammer, heft, no one saw him go. Suddenly, he wasn't there, just his boots with his hammer stuck inside, one like a heavy-headed flower. Back then, it was bizarre that after all that banter, he should be so silent, so inward with it, just to run off into sky. Later, I thought, cool. Still later, I think it makes sense his voice should sink back into breath and breath, devote itself to taking in whatever air might have to say on that short flight between the roof and the rest of his natural life.
Noel Samir, Glen Lawn Collegiate, Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Poor speaker, Sonnet Labay. I understand you. I get what you're trying to say. What you're trying to say is you want me to get it. I get it. You want me to understand. You want me to know, not the words, but what's behind them. Got it. You're trying to tell me what you want me to hear. What I hear is all words, but that's not all there is. I totally comprehend. There's a comprehensive totality, beyond or above or within or outside, whatever you just said. Yes, yes, your vocabulary can't put the nuance on the fine feeling you wish to express. Not that you're feeling fine, I know. Rather, the feeling is fine, like a fine point. Right, that's the point. I get it. If you could say so, you would. You still want me to understand? I told you from the beginning, I'm with you. I got it. Why keep going on? It's gotten. It's all good.
Barry Genge, Montague Regional High School, Montague, Prince Edward Island.
Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden, she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee. With a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we. And neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so, all the night tide, I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea.
Nina Thatch, Kildonan East Collegiate, Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Common Magic, Bronwyn Wallace. Your best friend falls in love, and her brain turns to water. You can watch her lips move, making the customary sounds, but you can see they're merely words, flimsy as bubbles rising from some golden sea where she swims sleek and exotic as a mermaid. It's always like that. You stop for lunch in a crowded restaurant, and the waitress floats toward you. You can tell she doesn't care whether you have the baked or French fried, and you wonder if your voice comes in bubbles, too. It's not just women either, or love, for that matter. The old man across from you on the bus holds a young child on his knee. He is singing to her, and his voice is a small boy turning somersaults in the green country of his blood. It's only when the driver calls his stop that he emerges into this puzzle of brick and tiny hedges. Only then you notice his shaking hand, his need of the child to guide him home. All over the city, you move in your own seasons through the seasons of others. Old woman, faces clawed by weather you can't feel, clack dry tongues at passers-by, while adolescents seethe in their glassy atmospheres of anger. In parks, the children are alien life forms rooted in the galaxies they've grown through to get here. Their games weave the interface, and their laughter tickles that part of your brain where smells are hidden and the nuzzling textures of things. It's a wonder that anything gets done at all. A mechanic flails at the muffler of your car through whatever storm he's trapped inside, and the mailman stares at numbers from the haze of a distant summer. Yet, somehow, letters arrive and buses remember their routes. Banks balance. Mangoes ripen on the supermarket shelves. Everyone manages. You gulp the thin air of this planet as if it were the only one you knew. Even the earth you're standing on seems solid enough. It's always the chance word, unthinking gesture that unlocks the face before you, reveals the intricate countries deep within the eyes. The hidden lives, like sudden miracles that breathe there.
End of round one. Round two. Matthew Joe, London Central Secondary School, London, Ontario.
But I'm No One by Wayman Chen. For M. Miller, dear Anne Carson, my friend read me the poem where your mom said that the dead walk backwards. You thought this myth arose from poor translation. I can attest to your misapprehension. My social studies teacher in grade 8, Ms. Rogers, believed it was customary for the Chinese to walk backwards when entering a washroom. So, when our class went to Silver Dragon for lunch, that's what we did, giggling, even if we didn't have to go. But in my family, we never believed this. Where do ideas like that come from? It's true that regret looks back, that death's shadow follows us, and your only true companion is solitude, whose clarity will fade to black. It makes sense that the face of death must be turned our way. We're still here. I have to read lots in order to find what's useful, Ms. Carson. To walk backwards is to safeguard not knowing. In the end, my striving can't reach more than this, than this.
Mackenzie Hutchinson, Prince of Wales Secondary School, Vancouver, British Columbia.
Grass by Ward Maxwell. Grass is unusual. It was invented by the Romans. Unlike most people, grass stays where it grows. If grass had gone to the moon, it would be there today because grass looks luxurious. People put it wherever they can. A wedge of grass could split a sidewalk, city block, Manhattan skyscraper, make a dog sick. Step on grass. It deserves it.
Nawal Samir, Glen Lawn Collegiate, Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Thoughtless Cruelty, Charles Lamb. There, Robert! You have killed that fly! And should you 1,000 ages try the life you've taken to supply, you could not do it. You surely must have been devoid of thought and sense to have destroyed a thing which no way you annoyed. You'll one day rue it. 'Twas but a fly, perhaps you'll say, that's born in April, dies in May, that does but just learn to display his wings 1 minute, and in the next is vanished quite. A bird devours it in his flight, or come a cold blast in the night. There's no breath in it. The bird but seeks his proper food, and Providence, whose power endued that fly with life when it thinks good, may justly take it. But you have no excuses for it. A life by nature made so short, less reason is that you, for sport, should shorter make it. A fly, a little thing you rate, Robert, do not estimate a creature's pain by small or great. The greatest being can have but fibers, nerves, and flesh, and these the smallest ones possess, although their frame and structure less escape our seeing.
Serena Fiel, Etobicoke School of the Arts, Etobicoke, Ontario.
You aren't going to like what I have to say. Donato Mancini. Before I start, I want to say you shouldn't blame yourself. There's no point in beating around the bush. There's something we need to talk about. This is the most difficult thing I've ever had to tell anyone. The longer I wait, the harder it's going to be. It's best if we face this right now. What I'm about to tell you won't be easy to hear. I know, this will hurt, but it has to be said. I don't like being the bearer of bad news. Please, sit down. This could come as a shock. You knew this was coming, right? I hope this won't be a complete surprise. I hate to break it to you. Please, don't kill the messenger. Line. Line. I have some really bad news. How do I even say this? This is really, really hard for me. There are no words for what I have to tell you. I can't go online anymore. You aren't going to like what I have to say.
Chandra Miller, Dr. Charles Best Secondary School, Coquitlam, British Columbia.
Trust Fund Witches, Emma Healy. Tape hiss value village vibraphones. On fixed gears scrubbed with salt and lemon, like the secret at the center of a magic eye, the witches. Genderless as light, breathe green and lavender, appear and disappear, chanting your passwords in a round. Voices like dimes dropped in a bowl, blush ultraviolet, glittering auras. Skin so soft, they move through walls, they press against your window, sing the spell they wrote about the city there. Nothing belongs to you. Nothing belongs to you. Nothing belongs.
Sophia Wilcott, Harborview High School, St. John, New Brunswick.
Mean Drunk Poem, Sharon Thiessen. Backward and down into in-between, as Vicky says, or as Robin teaches, the gap from which all things emerge. A left-handed compliment. Vats, houses of parliament, giants, stones. What woman witness to such thought does not feel so described and so impotent? She thinks she must speak. I will take your linguistic prick, and you will take my linguistic prick, and together we will gap this imagined earth together. She has the feeling all her life that she never makes sense. There is something else, big and dark at the edge of what she knows she cannot say. She always has the feeling she is translating into broken English. Language all her life is a second language. The first is mute and exists. I get drunk to lubricate my brain, and all that comes out of my gap is more bloody writing. No wonder we cook dinner, have another kid, write poetry about the beloved, and kiss ass. Who cares? As Eleanor says, who beats whose door down yelling truth? The door is only and always an entrance. Sing a Om as you take the sausage rolls out of the oven. The gap is real, and there's no such thing as female intelligence. We're dumber than hell.
Well, thank you, everyone. That was truly remarkable. And I must say, you are the best audience. So cheerful and engaging. It makes such a difference for them. Thank you. So we'll take a 15-minute break. When we come back, we'll complete round 2 and move on to round 3. See you very soon. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. So we'll start by finishing round 2, then we'll move on to round 3, and then we'll find out who is coming to tomorrow national finals. So excitement is growing and growing. Good luck to everyone.
Clara Sismondo, Kingston Collegiate and Vocational Institute, Kingston, Ontario.
These poems, she said. Robert Bringhurst. These poems? These poems? These poems, she said, are poems with no love in them. These are the poems of a man who would leave his wife and child because they made noise in his study. These are the poems of a man who would murder his mother to claim the inheritance. These are the poems of a man like Plato, she said, meaning something I did not comprehend, but which nevertheless offended me. These are the poems of a man who would rather sleep with himself than with women, she said. These are the poems of a man with eyes like a draw knife, with hands like a pickpocket's hands, woven of water and logic and hunger, with no strand of love in them. These poems are as heartless as birdsong, as unmeant as elm leaves, which if they love only the wide blue sky and the air and the idea of elm leaves. Self-love is an ending, she said, and not a beginning. Love means love of the things sung, not of the song or the singing. These poems, she said, you are, he said, beautiful. That is not love, she said, rightly.
Nina Thatch, Kildonan East Collegiate, Winnipeg, Manitoba.
What horror to awake at night, Lorraine Nidecker. What horror to awake at night, and in the dimness see the light. Time is white, mosquitoes bite, I've spent my life on nothing. The thought that stings, how are you? Nothing, sitting around with something's wife. Buzz and burn is all I learn, I've spent my life on nothing. I'm pillowed and patted, pale and puffing, lifting household stuffing. Carpets, dishes, benches, fishes. I've spent my life in nothing.
You Aren't Gonna Like What I Have to Say by Donato Mancini. Before I start, I want to say you shouldn't blame yourself. There's no point in beating around the bush. There's something we need to talk about. This is the most difficult thing I've ever had to tell anyone. The longer I wait, the harder it's going to be. It's best if we face this right now. What I'm about to tell you won't be easy to hear. I know this will hurt, but it has to be said. I don't like being the bearer of bad news. Please sit down. This could come as a shock. You knew this was coming, right? I hope this won't be a complete surprise. Hate to break it to you, please don't kill the messenger. I have some really bad news. How do I even say this? This is really, really hard for me. There are no words for what I have to tell you. I can't go on lying anymore. You aren't gonna like what I have to say.
William Zhang, University of Toronto Schools, Toronto, Ontario.
But I'm no one. Wayman Chan, for M. Mailer. Dear Anne Carson, my friend read me the poem where your mom said that the dead walk backwards. You thought this myth arose from poor translation. I can attest to your misapprehension. My social studies teacher in grade 8, Miss Rogers, believed it was customary for the Chinese to walk backwards when entering a washroom. So when our class went to Silver Dragon for lunch, that's what we did, giggling, even if we didn't have to go. But in my family, we never believed this. Where do ideas like that come from? It's true that regret looks back, that death's shadow follows us, and your only true companion is solitude, whose clarity will fade to black. It makes sense that the face of death must be turned our way. We're still here. I have to read lots in order to find what's useful, Miss Carson. To walk backwards is to safeguard not knowing. In the end, my striving can't reach more than this.
Irene Zhang, Fraser Heights Secondary School, Surrey, British Columbia.
If our bodies could rust, we would be falling apart. Billy Ray Belcourt. The law mandates that a hate crime only be classified as such if there is ample evidence to show that one's actions were motivated by prejudice toward an individual's nationality, ethnicity, sexuality, gender, etc. Oh, I got one. Some, more than others, know that all objects can be put to violent use. If our bodies could rust, we would be falling apart. Oh, I got one. Barbara Kentner, 34, was hit in the stomach by a trailer hitch thrown at her from a moving car. After throwing the hitch, a blonde 18-year-old man yelled, "Oh, I got one!" Her sisters saw and heard everything. No one should have to watch a world explode like that. No one should have to watch someone become unbodied like that. The CBC reported that the police did not investigate the assault as a hate crime because there were no comments which made any reference to race or ethnicity. Oh, I got one. It is basic syntax. One is the object, and she is at the mercy of the I. This is a semiotics of indigeneity that roots us into death worlds. In the mouths of the grim reapers of the world, grammar is excited by violence. Oh, I got one. What did he see when he made her into a ghost? What is a ghost but the form we take when we are pulled outside of our bodies? Oh, I got one. There were memories made, and they do not disappear with the disappeared. Kentner was sent home by doctors so that her loved ones could witness her parting. How can a living room become a church without grief leaving its indelible mark? Oh, I got one. How do we live at the edge of the world?
Catricia Hebert, St. Mary's Catholic School, Sexsmith, Alberta.
Somewhere I have never traveled, E.E. Cummings. Somewhere I have never traveled, gladly beyond any experience, your eyes have their silence. In your most frail gesture are things which enclose me, or which I cannot touch because they are too near. Your slightest look easily will unclose me. Though I have closed myself as fingers, you open, always. Petal by petal, myself as spring opens, touching skillfully, mysteriously, her first rose. Or if your wish be to close me, I and my life will shut very beautifully, suddenly, as when the heart of this flower imagines the snow carefully everywhere descending. Nothing which we are to perceive in this world equals the power of your intense fragility, whose texture compels me with the color of its countries, rendering death and forever with each breathing. I do not know what it is about you that closes and opens. Only something in me understands. The voice of your eyes is deeper than all roses. Nobody, not even the rain, has such small hands.
End of round 2. Round 3. Barry Genge, Montague Regional High School, Montague, Prince Edward Island.
I have not lingered in European monasteries, by Leonard Cohen. I have not lingered in European monasteries and discovered among the tall grasses tombs of knights who fell as beautifully as their ballads tell. I have not parted the grasses or purposefully left them thatched. I have not released my mind to wander and wait in those great distances between the snowy mountains and the fishermen, like a moon or a shell beneath the moving water. I have not held my breath so that I might hear the breathing of God, or tamed my heartbeat with an exercise, or starved for visions. Although I have watched him often, I have not become the heron leaving my body on the shore. And I have not become the luminous trout leaving my body in the air. I have not worshipped wounds and relics, or combs of iron, or bodies wrapped and burnt in scrolls. I have not been unhappy for 10,000 years. During the day, I laugh, and during the night, I sleep. My favorite cooks prepare my meals. My body cleans and repairs itself, and all my work goes well.
Clara Sismondo, Kingston Collegiate and Vocational Institute, Kingston, Ontario.
Poem for Duncan Campbell Scott, Armand Garnet Ruffo. Canadian poet, who had a long and distinguished career in the Department of Indian Affairs, retiring in 1932, the Penguin Book of Canadian Verse. Who is this black coat and tie? Christian severity etched in the lines he draws from his mouth. Clearly a noble man who believes in work and mission. See how he rises from the red velvet chair, rises out of the boat with the 2 Union Jacks fluttering like birds of prey, and makes his way towards our tents. This man looks as if he could walk on water, and for our benefit, probably would, if he could. He says he comes from Ottawa Way, Odawa country, comes to talk treaty and annuity and destiny to make the inevitable less painful, bearing gifts that must be had. Notice how he speaks aloud and forthright. This or nothing. Beware, without title to the land under the crown, you have no legal right to be here. Speaks, as though it has been long decided wasn't, as though he wasn't merely carrying out his duty to God and King, but sincerely felt. Some whisper this man lives in a house of many rooms, has a cook and a maid and even a gardener to cut his grass and water his flowers. Some don't care. They don't like the look of him. They say he asks many questions, but doesn't wait to listen. Asks much about yesterday, little about today, and acts as if he knows tomorrow. Others don't like the way he's always busy writing stuff in the notebook he carries. Him, he calls it poetry, and says it will make us, who are doomed, live forever.
Chandra Miller, Dr. Charles Best Secondary School, Coquitlam, British Columbia.
Where there's a wall, Joy Kogawa. Where there's a wall, there's a way through, a gate or door. There's even a ladder, perhaps, and a sentinel who sometimes sleeps. There are secret passwords you can overhear. There are methods of torture for extracting clues to maps of underground passages. There are zeppelins, helicopters, rockets, bombs, battering rams, armies with trumpets whose all at once blast shatters the foundations. Where there's a wall, there are words to whisper by loose bricks, wailing prayers to utter, birds to carry messages taped to their feet. There are letters to be written, poems even. Faint as in a dream is the voice that calls from the belly of the wall.
William Zhang, University of Toronto Schools, Toronto, Ontario.
Dulce et decorum est by Wilfred Owen. Bent double, like old beggars under sacks. Knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge. Till on the haunting flares we turned our backs, and towards our distant rest began to trudge. Men marched to sleep. Many had lost their boots but limped on, bloodshot. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue, deaf even to the hoots of gas shells dropping softly behind. Gas, gas, quick boys! An ecstasy of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmets just in time. But someone still was yelling out, and stumbling and floundering like a man in fire or lime. Dim, through the misty panes and thick green light as under a green sea I saw him drowning. In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. If in some smothering dreams, you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in, and watch the white eyes writhing in his face, his hanging face like a devil's, sick of sin. If you could hear, at every jolt, the blood come gargling from the froth-corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer, bitter as the cut of vile, incurable sores on innocent tongues. My friend, you would not tell, with such high zest, to children ardent for some desperate glory, the old lie, dulce et decorum est, pro patria mori.
Catricia Hebert, St. Mary's Catholic School, Sexsmith, Alberta.
A history of houses built out of spite. Chemwemwe Undi. None of us know Amy personally, but she's here and she's singing, rising above our sodden heads, bowed in something like prayer, maybe. Most of us are trying to move enough to pretend she doesn't remind us of our mothers, and Sunday morning spring cleans, the sharp, bleached smell of it, the shrill peak of their voices demanding something far less beautiful. We're trying not to think of mothers who mostly whisper now, or girls who looked away and uninvited us from sleepovers even though they were smiling the whole time. Or the last time that we were here, how it felt the same when we got home after it, as in everything, the same as in worse. You gotta move sometimes when you're stuck in the middle of it. That's the philosophy we're buying into here, using drink tickets we bought at the dollar store and tucked into bras, and ace bandages and sagging back pockets. You gotta move your body, a last resort, occupying unceded space, the only thing that's ever belonged to you. And half the girls here have called that into question. Girls only, because that's how you get in here just because of the girls. Because here is nowhere. And here lives the only God that thinks our wetness akin to holy water, that answers to the tense-bodied hallelujahs escaping mouths we thought had forgotten how to form them. Us broken daughters, and all our pieces jangling, all strobe light, sweat, and saxophone. When Amy died, we danced off the sorrow we knew our mothers would shed. Split their self-satisfied smugness between us like a quarter. We tucked a backbeat under a promise of an always love. Used those tickets to bind to that sacred oath in mezzo-soprano, and we moved to it, right into it, because that's what the fuck you do. Our love been a losing game, Amy. We know the power of no. No. No, even when it was the wrong thing. And we know we belong here. Maybe not everywhere, but that's what nowhere is for. And here we are, in the middle of it. Besides, it's different for us. Us, as in everyone, different, as in the same.
Nina Thatch, Kildonan East Collegiate, Winnipeg, Manitoba.
My brother at 3 a.m., Natalie Diaz. He sat cross-legged, weeping on the steps, when Mom unlocked and opened the front door. "Oh God," he said. "Oh God, he wants to kill me, Mom." When Mom unlocked and opened the front door at 3 a.m., she was in her nightgown. Dad was asleep. "He wants to kill me," he told her, looking over his shoulder. 3 a.m. and in her nightgown, Dad asleep. "What's going on?" she asked. "Who wants to kill you?" He looked over his shoulder. "The devil does. Look at him, over there." She asked, "What are you on? Who wants to kill you?" The sky wasn't black or blue, but the green of a dying night. "The devil. Look at him. Over there." He pointed to the corner house. The sky wasn't black or blue, but the dying green of night. Stars had closed their eyes or sheathed their knives. My brother pointed to the corner house. His lips flickered with sores. Stars had closed their eyes or sheathed their knives. "Oh God, I can see the tail," he said. "Oh God, look!" Mom winced at the sores on his lips. "It's sticking out from behind the house." "Oh God, see the tail," he said. "Look at the goddamn tail." He sat cross-legged, weeping on the front steps. Mom finally saw it. A hellish vision. My brother. "Oh God. Oh God," she said.
Nawal Samir, Glen Lawn Collegiate, Winnipeg, Manitoba.
I am Graffiti, Leanne Batasamasak Simpson. I am writing to tell you that, yes, indeed, we have noticed you have a new big pink eraser. We are well aware you are trying to use it. Erasing Indians is a good idea, of course. The bleeding heart liberals and communists can stop feeling bad for the stealing and raping and murdering, and we can all move on. We can be reconciled. Except I am Graffiti, except mistakes were made. She painted 3 white X's on the wall of the grocery store. 1, 2, 3. Then they were erased. Except I am Graffiti, except mistakes were made. The X's were made out of milk because they took our food. 1, 2, 3, then we were erased. Except I am Graffiti, except mistakes were made. We are the singing remnants left over after the bomb went off in slow motion over a century instead of a fractionated second. It's too much to process, so we make things instead. We are the line. We are the singing remnants left over after the costumes have been made, collected up, put in a plastic bag full of intentions for another time, another project. Except I am Graffiti, and mistakes were made.
Sophia Wilcott, Harborview High School, St. John, New Brunswick.
I felt a funeral in my brain. Emily Dickinson. I felt a funeral in my brain, and mourners to and fro kept treading, till it seemed that sense was breaking through. And when they all were seated, a service like a drum kept beating, till I thought my mind was going numb. And then I heard them lift a box and creak across my soul with those same boots of lead again. And space began to toll, as all the heavens were a bell, and being but an ear, and I, and silence. Some strange race wrecked, solitary here. And then a plank in reason broke, and I fell down and down and hit a world at every plunge, and finished knowing then.
Mackenzie Hutchinson, Prince of Wales Secondary School, Vancouver, British Columbia.
The Swimmer's Moment by Margaret Avison. For everyone, the swimmer's moment at the whirlpool comes, but many at that moment will not say, "This is the whirlpool then." By their refusal, they are saved from the black pit and also from contesting the deadly rapids and emerging in the mysterious and more ample further waters. And so their bland, blank faces turn and turn, pale and forever on the rim of suction they will not recognize. Of those who dare the knowledge, many are whirled into the ominous center. That gaping vertical seals up for them an eternal boon of privacy, so that we turn away from their defeat with a despair not for their deaths, but for ourselves, who cannot penetrate their secret, nor even guess at the anonymous breath where one or two have won the silver reaches of the estuary.
Matthew Joe, London Central Secondary School, London, Ontario.
Plenty by Kevin Connolly. The sky, lit up like a question or an applause meter, is beautiful, like everything else today. The leaves in the gutters, salt stains on shoes. The girl at the IGA, who looks just like Julie Delpy, but you don't tell her. She's too young to get the reference, and coming from you, it'll just seem creepy. So much beauty today, you can't find room for it. Closets already filled with beautiful trees and smells and glances and clever turns of phrase. Behind the sky, there's a storm on the way, which, with your luck, will be a beautiful storm. Dark clouds, beautiful as they arguably are. The rain, beautiful, as it always is. Even lightning can be beautiful in a scary kind of way. There's a word for that, but let's forget it for the moment. And maybe the sun will hang in long enough to light up a few raindrops, like jewels or glass. Or those bright beads girls put between the letters on the bracelets that spell out their beautiful names. Sky, or Miranda, or Veranda, which isn't even a name, although it is a word we use to call things what they are, and would be a pleasant place to sit and watch the beautiful sky, beautiful storm, the people with their beautiful names walking toward the lake in lovely clothing, saying unpleasant things over the phone about the people they work with. All of it just adding to the mother lode, the surfeit of beauty, which on this day is just a fancy way of saying lots, too much, skid loads, plenty.
Serena Fio, Etobicoke School of the Arts, Etobicoke, Ontario.
If our bodies could rust, we would be falling apart. Billy Ray Belcourt. The law mandates that a hate crime only be classified as such if there is ample evidence to show that one's actions were motivated by prejudice toward an individual's nationality, ethnicity, sexuality, gender, etc. Oh, I got one. Some, more than others, know that all objects can be put to violent use. If our bodies could rust, we would be falling apart. Oh, I got one. Barbara Kentner, 34, was hit in the stomach by a trailer hitch thrown at her from a moving car. After throwing the hitch, a blonde 18-year-old man yelled, "Oh!" I got one. Her sister saw and heard everything. No one should have to watch a world explode like that. No one should have to watch someone become unbodied like that. The CBC reported that the police did not investigate the assault as a hate crime because there were no comments which made any reference to race or ethnicity. Oh, I got one. It is basic syntax. One is the object, and she is at the mercy of the I. This is a semiotics of indigeneity that roots us into death worlds. In the mouths of the grim reapers of the world, grammar is excited by violence. Oh, I got one. What did he see when he made her into a ghost? What is a ghost but the form we take when we are pulled outside of our bodies? Oh, I got one! There were memories made, and they do not disappear with the disappeared. Kentner was sent home by doctors so that her loved ones could witness her parting. How can a living room become a church without grief, leaving its indelible mark? Oh, I got one. How do we live at the edge of the world?
Irene Zhang, Fraser Heights Secondary School, Surrey, British Columbia.
One art, Elizabeth Bishop. The art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost that their loss is no disaster. Lose something every day, except the fluster of lost door keys, the hour badly spent. The art of losing isn't hard to master. Then practice losing farther, losing faster, places and names and where it was you meant to travel. None of these will bring disaster. I lost my mother's watch, and look, my last or next to last of 3 loved houses went. The art of losing isn't hard to master. I lost 2 cities, lovely ones, and vaster some realms I owned, 2 rivers, a continent. I miss them, but it wasn't a disaster. Even losing you, the joking voice, a gesture I love. I shan't have lied. It's evident the art of losing's not too hard to master, though it may look like disaster.
Well, bravo to all the students. Weren't they amazing? And I think, and I bet you're all anxiously waiting to find out who the winners are, and I think we'll know very, very soon. So thank you so much, and I will ask our 12 competitors to come back on stage. Big round of applause for them. Bravo! So the 3 students who are moving on to the national finals tomorrow are Matthew Joe, London Central Secondary School, London, Ontario. Katricia Hibbert, St. Mary's Catholic School, Sexsmith, Alberta. Nina Thatch, Kildonan, East Collegiate, Winnipeg. Congratulations. Thank you so much for your hard work. You make this contest absolutely amazing. I also want to thank the teachers. You put a lot of work yourself into it, encouraging your students. Thank you, the parents. You are supporting your children to learn poetry and become good readers of poetry. And the technician, of course, the judges. What a difficult task you have. But you did a wonderful job. So, thank you. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 7 p.m. for the national finals. And remember, you can also watch via our live stream at poetryinvoice.com. So thank you all for coming, and see you tomorrow. Vive la poésie! Thank you.